Welcome to Talking Halos. This is Derek Ciapola with my co-host, my partners in crime, Nate, negative Nate Green, and Jared Timms, who also takes a lot of heat for his Shohei Ohtani takes. Do you want to go ahead and start one off today, Jared? Just want to go?
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani should have won the MVP.
That's one people will like, though. I was waiting for you to give me one that people wouldn't like.
Oh, the Angels should trade Shohei Ohtani. Angels shouldn't bring back Shohei Ohtani.
Fair enough.
You get this out of the way early. We get like talking Shohei Ohtani out of the way early like this. YouTube algorithms, fantastic. YouTube AI, they love it. Comment early. Let us know how bad you hate our Shohei Ohtani takes. Trust me, I do it all. Marketing.
Fair enough. All right. So in the news today, because there is no free agency news, and I'm kind of blown away. You guys I may just actually just start this thing and let you two go, because I'm just going to sit here and go, okay, balls. So we want to talk about today, balls. In particular, according to The Insider, Bradford William Davis writes, Major League Baseball used at least two types of balls this year. This thing could go so wrong. And evidence points to a third. So, first off, for the casual fans, why does this matter? Who wants to start this? Nate?
Take it away, Nate.
Yeah,
you want to go over
sure. A lot of fun for me being a pitcher. So they did use a couple different baseballs this year. It was pretty obvious. It seemed like in primetime games that were televised, and it was a big deal. They wanted the balls juiced. They wanted baseballs to fly all over the place. They wanted home runs because that's what people pay to see, according to Rob Manfred and his antics. And then the MLB was also trying to get away from all of the home runs and wanted to get back to the dead ball era. So they were trying to kind of put both of those together. The reason they wanted to go back to the dead ball as well is because they really cracked down on the sticky stuff from the pitchers. So the dead ball is a lot easier for the pitchers to throw. It gives them a little bit more control. And it kind of evens things out for everyone. That there needs to be a happy median, which there is, but the MLB didn't want to use that because the home runs weren't as wild with the happy medium ball. But so nevertheless, that was the big deal, is like pitchers wanted to be able to throw the baseball because they weren't allowed to use sticky stuff. They wanted hitters to hit, but they didn't want pitchers to be upset without using sticky stuff. So there was a issue that Manfred had run into because he cracked down on the sticky stuff. So now he had to use a different baseball, and now he's into 3 different baseballs, which is going to be a big deal, especially when we start talking about what you mentioned already, Shohei Ohtani in the MVP race. And when were teams getting some of these juice balls? When were some of these teams getting dead balls? And it's really going to bring up a really interesting point. And I know Jared's got some stuff to talk about on this. So Jared, what else you want to add to that?
Yeah, so you look at this, and this isn't just something that has started this last year by any means. This has been going on for years. They say since 2017-ish. I would assume that tampering baseballs has probably gone on for quite some time, ever since you could do it. So MLB cracks down on the pitchers for using the sticky stuff. We've been over this multiple of times. The biggest thing for me, and it's not the fact that Shohei like putting an asterisk on the MVP by any means, because they were feeding the Yankees the juice balls more often, and again, bring it back a little bit more for the casual fans. They say 3 different baseballs were being used. They were using dead balls, they were using the Goldilocks balls, which are right in the middle, and they were using the juiced balls, which the juice balls were proven to be handed out with instead of the MLB logo, which I guess you can kind of see, the commemorative logo one. So the Angels had the 50th anniversary ball. It would have been something like that. Now, they didn't do it during the 50th anniversary, I think now 60th anniversary, because that's when, it wasn't a big deal. However, this year, one in particular, Texas Rangers, they weighed that ball. They saw how tight the laces were on that ball, and they did find a pattern that those balls were, juiced in a sense. Primetime balls as well. Those balls that we see on ESPN, the ESPN games, the big games, the primetime games, those balls were being juiced, a little bit tighter strung, a little bit, they're able to be hit a little bit farther. Pitchers are leaving them over the plate a little bit more, less grip on those balls so that home runs go up, as well as, and this gets us into the point that Shohei Ohtani, whatever argument we want to make, because I know we'll talk about this, possibly should have won the MVP because they were feeding Aaron Judge and the Yankees these juiced balls as well, so that Aaron Judge could hit all of those home runs. Not so that necessarily he could do it right off the bat, but I would assume once he got to 50, 60.
Hold on, pause.
Go on.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude here.
Yeah.
What is your evidence to state that they were giving Aaron Judge the juice balls versus?
There's a whole study. The whole insider, they went and got balls.
So it's in the article itself. What they're trying to tell people to do.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
What's going to happen? What we need to do is when we put this podcast out, it's got to be linked in there. But according to their study, they're saying Aaron Judge got the juice balls, which means they rigged everything.
Yep. And if you look at starts that Garrett Cole made in the second half of the season, his ERA was about a 5, I think, in that second half because of those juiced baseballs and because they were giving him those juice balls. So yeah, Yankees pitchers were actually, really not benefiting from this. But this also brings up an interesting point down the road, is that Shohei Ohtani also had a fantastic pitching streak down the road and down the stretch, not giving up a whole lot of runs, striking out a lot of guys. And consistent starts. So you start wondering then, did MLB feed him the dead balls so that, he had a better grip on the ball, so that, he didn't give up as many runs? You have a storyline down the road. So the argument can go both ways, Nate. I know you probably wanted to bring that argument in as well, but I'll bring it in too, because I think I think it's a valid argument. No study was done for the Angels, but they did find that obviously they threw juice balls in postseason games, in those big games, so that everybody, more runs were scored. And then down the stretch after the All-Star break, more Yankee games got that juice ball as well. So it brings up, a very interesting point. Do you put an asterisk on this home run? Do you put an asterisk on the 62 home runs, this new record, now that I air quote, because the balls were tampered?
You don't even put an asterisk next to Barry Bonds' home run, so get out of here with the asterisk crap. But what I want to talk about, you see where the juice balls come into effect. A lot of it stems from primetime games, like games that are on TV that we talked about, right? Postseason games, you saw a lot of juice balls. And Sunday Night Baseball, you saw juice balls. You saw like the MLB games that had juice balls. Like that was when it was a big deal because people are watching. Aaron Judge got a lot of juice balls late, is what it looks like. It looks like it really started August, right after the All-Star break. So roughly August and September is when it really started. But I honestly think part of it too is the MLB wanted a storyline. And I know this is going to be like, oh, but there was so much to talk about. There really wasn't much to talk about in September. There was the Braves Mets race for first place. And after that, there was nothing. It was Aaron Judge doing his things and Shohei Ohtani doing his things. And that was it. And honestly, even the Braves-Mets thing, like, yeah, it was a cool story, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, both teams were going to the playoffs no matter what. Both teams were going to host, whether they were in the wild card game or not. They were hosting something. And it was just like, okay, all the MLB could talk about was Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, because there wasn't really too many storylines. And we kind of had said that going into the year. A lot of people, not just us, adding the extra wildcard team is going to make it a lot easier to get in. And some of these, you're either going to be in for sure or you're not going to be in at all. And we saw the effects of that. And I think that's part of the reason why they wanted to juice the balls for the Yankees, especially going down the road, because they wanted Judge to break that record and get there, because now there's something for them to talk about. On top of it, a lot of games that Judge played in were on TV because he was close to that record. So again, they want more runs scored in these games because they don't want casual fans to watch the game and be like, all right, this is boring. It's 0-0 going into the 7th inning again. I'm not seeing any action. Most casual fans aren't there to watch pitcher duels. They're there to watch balls get hit out of the yard, balls get hit super hard. They love watching Giancarlo Stanton. They love watching Aaron Judge. It's not a big deal to them to see, Garrett Cole go out there, strike out 13 and give up 2 hits in 7 innings. Like, it's cool, but it's not as cool as watching Aaron Judge hit one 480 feet or Giancarlo Stanton hitting one 120 miles an hour. So I think MLB was trying to do something to just get the casual fan more involved.
I'll say
There's
this.
a problem.
Go for it.
Here's a problem with that. It goes along with the same kind of argument we had with the rule changes before. And I won't even say argument, discussion, more or less. I don't think we had much of an argument. That you're starting to mess with the integrity of the game the more you manipulate it. And this goes beyond the debate stage. Like if what this article is saying is true, then you are beyond debate. You are at the point where you have manipulated the integrity of the game to benefit one type of player over another, to benefit one team in one market over another team in another market. And that is incredibly, can I give it any strong word? Incredibly immoral. And really brings to question the credibility of anybody who's running this league. Now, that said, I want to back up the asterisk thing. I've been a long believer that Barry Bonds should be in Hall of Fame. I believe that there should not be an asterisk by his name for the sole purpose of they found cream on him. He was a bad guy, right? He was a bad guy. Nobody liked him. I get it.
His head grew a whole size.
I know. Listen, I get the visual evidence. I get they found cream on him, but we also know there's plenty of people who've taken roids whose heads didn't grow a whole head size. And 2, we don't know who was on the stuff during this era. So how can you make that case? We have people who cheated left and right before the steroids era. Cheated all the time, got away with it.
Absolutely.
So how can you make that judgment call for one era over the other?
Well, especially
and he
in
was
that
still
era,
the
you
best.
You have guys
era.
in the Hall of Fame that you don't even know are clean. Like Pudge was. Hey, is he clean? Piazza, is he clean? Like there was those rumors of, are those guys clean? David Ortiz is not clean. We know that for a fact, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So there's a bunch of this.
What's the difference?
Issues.
He was likable.
Yes,
that's the only flipping
thing.
difference. And then you have, and then the other end of it, you have guys in the Hall of Fame from eons ago who we know cheated, spitball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We know they are doctoring baseballs. We know they were doing stuff with the bat, and they're in the Hall of Fame. So I get tired of, and this goes across all sports. Baseball writers, football writers are always Hall of Fames. They are the arbiters. They invoke their morality on what belongs in the Hall of Fame and what doesn't, when all that should really matter is what did you accomplish? And how did you accomplish it? What era? They're taking out all the consideration, and because you didn't like the guys on it. So the same thing for a judge. Should there be an asterisk? No. Should we be complaining about this? Yes. Should we demand accountability from Major League Baseball? Yes. But in my view,
But like Jared said, who's to say they didn't, do things the opposite way for the Angels and make things
exactly. But we don't have that study, do we?
No. And we've seen both teams, whatever game the Yankees were playing, both teams were using the same baseballs. It was not like, oh, Aaron Judge is at the plate, let's put an iffy ball in here for his AB, and then let's take all those baseballs out and put, the dead baseballs in for the other team. Like, we weren't playing with Deflategate footballs here. Everyone's playing the same baseballs, whether it's the Astros hitting, whether it's the Yankees hitting, whether it's the Red Sox, whoever's hitting at this time, they're all using the same baseballs. Now, some teams might get the baseballs a little bit more than others, whatever, but it is what it is. Like, they're playing on a pretty even playing field when it comes to that specific game. Maybe the numbers aren't the same according to like overall statistics between the Yankees and the Angels or the Mariners or some of these teams like that, but the game that is being played between the Yankees and the Astros, or the Yankees and the Rays, whoever you want to put them against, like they're both playing with the same baseballs. The only issue is you have quotes from pitchers in here like Verlander and Bassett and other guys like that who are saying, I can tell the difference. The first inning, the ball feels great. Third inning, the ball sucks. Fourth inning, the ball feels good. Fifth inning, it's okay. And it's just like to have that in a game, like it should be all or none. Like we shouldn't play this stupid game of, all right, well, let's put some dead balls in and some juice balls in. No, just either put all juice balls in, all Goldilocks balls in, or all dead balls in. Like we want the pitchers to have as close to the same baseball as possible because we want them to have an even game. We don't want them to be like, oh, I've got great control today. And, I can go in on a guy. They go in on him in the first inning. All of a sudden, third inning, they got a bad baseball. They hit a guy near the head, neck area, and everyone's losing their mind because the guy's like, I had a different baseball. Like, what do I know? So, I don't know. That's the one thing that really frustrates me is that there are so many different balls in one game. But the fact that they're using different baseballs, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, and I'll say this, and I kind of ended on this. And this is not a popular opinion, but steroids save baseball. I mean, me and Nate weren't biggest of fans at that time. We were young. Derek, I think you can, in a sense, attest to this. Steroids, in a sense, save baseball. I know that's a very unpopular opinion. Nate, you brought it up. The balls brought different stories to the season. So if Shohei Ohtani was getting more dead balls, it brought unbelievable stories, and it brought people in to watch this one guy pitch. Same thing with Aaron Judge. They gave him more juice balls. It brought in a story. It brought more fans in, more people talking about it. It's fantastic that it happened on Apple TV, by the way. If it did, I think it did, right? Or it was going to. The game before was on Apple.
He had 61 at the time, and they showed 2 straight games on Apple TV because they were playing the Red Sox. And then they went to Texas, and it was on MLB Network. He hit the home run. It was great.
Spectacular that it was on Apple TV, and that they're using these juice balls, and almost nobody was able to see it. However, yes, I think, again, steroids save baseball. I think this created stories. I think it's not good for baseball. And I'm shocked that this story isn't getting out more and more, and MLB is denying it. But this, again, I wouldn't say save baseball, but it makes baseball a little bit more interesting, especially down the road, especially if they're feeding Shohei Ohtani these the non-juice balls, the dead balls, and they were feeding Aaron Judge the juice balls. Because that was really, again, the only story down the road was, Shohei Ohtani deserves to win MVP, but Aaron Judge is going to hit 62 home runs and is having one of the best offensive seasons of all time, So again, like I said, I don't know what to take from it. You can't put an asterisk next to it. I agree with that, but
I want to finish it off
game
with
fun.
this, though.
Take it.
I want to put a contrast here. Steroids. It wasn't MLB didn't purposely say, "Hey, let's go inject a bunch of people steroids to make the game popular." Okay, they let it happen as the congressional testimony showed, and I remember watching that testimony and being like, wow. I remember the books that came out. I remember all that stuff. They didn't purposely just go inject players. They turned a blind eye. And as much as we hate to say, it did save baseball. Baseball was dying after the strike. I remember, except for a few cities like Cleveland with the Indians teams they had back then, they were selling every game. A couple of cities were selling every game, but other than that, people were like, I ain't going. They didn't want to pay for a bunch of spoiled brats, both for owners and players. They weren't wanting to do that, and it was a steroid era brought back. But on the flip side of it, the difference here is you have, if true, you have the ownership, you have executives making the decision to alter the play of the game through different baseballs. That is a difference. That is a contrast from the steroid era. It has to be uniform. And it's weird that we're talking about baseballs. If you want a dead ball, then use a dead ball. If you want to use a ball that's a little more lively, then use it for everybody. But don't play games with it. If you want more offense, then you take the hit with it. You don't pick and choose and mess with people's careers, because people are getting contracts off this stuff, man.
Aaron Judge made 360, 380 this year. $380 million because of him, not because of him, but
what did you do to these Yankees pitchers' careers by having them and by seeing their stats go up with this ball as they go out for free agency or new contracts. I mean, you're playing this game. And the same for Shohei. What are they doing to Shohei's career? How about the Angels lineup overall? How much did if it's true that they use a different ball, how did the Angels lineup suffer for it?
It sucked no matter what. Let's be honest. Like,
but
let's be honest though.
Hold
Like,
on, I'm listen. But you can't judge like how it changed things. Like if we're gonna look at how Garrett Cole being a great example, how his ERA was dramatically inflated in the second half of the year, then it's fair to say that these different baseballs changed how these guys were hitting.
Andrew Velasquez's career average was the same as what he put up this year.
Andrew Velasquez,
and the fact that
is
we were
Andrew
running
Velasquez, dude.
but you're running him out there. You're running him out there every single day. He's part of the offense. He's part of the problem. It's all part of the same thing.
But you guys cannot say it affected one side in New York and didn't affect the guys in Anaheim if they're using different baseballs. But it's going to affect them. The level of which we don't know.
We don't have the facts that it did affect the Angels. Like that's just speculation.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We do know for sure it affected.
What I'm saying is, if Shohei had a dead ball, then you would have to assume that it affected the hitters as well. How much, what scale, we don't know. But you can't have it one way in New York and it affect them with one type of baseball and it not affect the Angels at home either. It cannot be either or. It's going to be that way, period, depending on what kind of baseball you use. So if we believe that Shohei got the dead ball, then the hitters got the dead ball, and it would affect them. How much? We don't know.
As long as the other team got the dead ball, the game didn't change.
I mean,
that's my
for
opinion.
Velasquez, it didn't. But what about your power hitters?
What power hitters? We were running Mike Ford out there, David Fletcher.
How about this? Let's bring this
Luis
back.
Rengifo had his career year. Mike Trout was unbelievable in the second half. He had the best second half of anybody in baseball.
How did Mr. Ward's power hitting change the second half of the year?
I don't know. How many times did he get hurt before? He got hurt 3 times before the second half.
But again, you cannot say, if you're saying the type of baseball they use in New York affected their pitchers, then you can't say it didn't affect the hitters in Anaheim if they use a dead ball. You can't.
But that's like Oakland saying, "Oh man, we got the dead balls and we only won 60 games." Like,
well, you got 25. You got 25,
Oakland
30 years of people using a dead ball in Colorado when they went from being a jumping ball to, hey, we better freeze these baseballs in the humidor, and everybody's numbers go down. Doesn't mean they didn't have bad. They had bad numbers, but their numbers went down, especially if you're a power hitter.
But everyone was using the same ball, so it didn't change the game.
And here's a Mike Trout. Mike Trout's like, he's flipping Mike Trout. He's jacked.
I mean,
it would be different if we were running out a major league lineup. We were running out a AAA lineup in that time of the season.
You can't. I mean, how about this? It may have been a guy who would hit 15 home runs or 10 home runs with a regular ball. They get a dead ball, they're going to hit 6 or 8. I'm not talking like, hey, a guy would have hit 30 with a normal ball and only hit 10 this year. That's what I'm saying. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, but like Rengifo had a good second half. Like there were guys on the team that had good second halves. It's hard to really pinpoint what if it was only on Shohei Ohtani pitching days. What if we were getting the juice balls the rest of the days?
Let's just bounce it back.
We don't even know.
Did Ohtani have a dead ball?
We don't.
We don't know, right? Maybe he didn't, and this is all a Yankee thing.
His ERA was in the first half was 2.32. His ERA in the second half was 2.23. So it didn't drastically change. You look at Nestor Cortez on the Yankees, his ERA went down in the second half. Garrett Cole's went up a full point in the second half. So I mean, yes,
really, because of one start though, he gave up 10 or something in one start. It was a bad start.
Yeah, and again, we talk about feel for the ball, and I've worked with Garrett Cole before, and I know it's a feel of the ball thing for him. And I know how special Garrett Cole is. So it could have been 100%. The ball's a little softer, the ball's a little harder, the ball's a little slipper. Look at how many walks he probably had during that game. I'd guess he had six walks if he gave up 8 or 9 runs in that game. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be honest here. The stats don't prove anything. This article that came out prove something if they did the research on it, that they found 3 different types of balls: a softer ball, the Goldilocks ball in the middle, and the juice ball that supposedly they were feeding to the Yankees, but and feeding in the postseason. And other than that, we don't know that. We don't know anything else besides that. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if it hurt the Angels down the stretch. They didn't have a good lineup. It is what it is. You know, maybe they were giving, in non-Shohei Ohtani starts, they were giving Mike Trout these juice balls because he hit 40 home runs. But I mean, Mike Trout is also the best player that ever played the game, to ever step on this baseball field. So one of the best hitters of all time. So I don't, you know, it's hard to tell. It really is. I would assume though, if you know, this, I would believe that this article is fairly true and the research behind it is true. And knowing Rob Manfred, it doesn't surprise us at all with the rule changes he's made by any means. And here's what's going to happen again. It's going to be the exact same thing that happened this year, that happened last year with all the new rule changes. They're going to come in with the dead ball, or they could flip it around. They could come in with the juice ball and say, "Hey, look, our rule changes are working. The offense is hitting, and then in the second half, not, you know, go to the dead ball again." Which is exactly what we thought they would do last year, which is start with the dead ball to prove that the sticky stuff wasn't the culprit. There was nothing wrong there. And that's kind of what we saw, and everybody kind of mellowed down and forgot about it. And then they put in the juice ball later on, and you know, we kind of saw, I would assume we saw more runs. We'd have to go look at the stats, but I would assume we saw more runs in the second half. You know, and we saw a little bit more fun of baseball too. So
I looked it up. Garrett Cole gave up 6 runs against the Mariners at home, 3 home runs, only 1 walk. That Mariner lineup was very good at that time, though. They were very hot. That was when they were really getting going. J-Rod was hitting.
Sunday baseball game, Sunday ESPN
it
game.
Might have been.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, there's something
Juice
behind
balls
it.
there anyway.
The Angels had a bad lineup last year. You know, whether or not they were getting juice balls or not, you know, you expect Mike Trout to hit. You expect Shohei Ohtani to be a good hitter. You know, Luis Renifo took good steps forward from last season. Whether he was getting juice balls or not, it'll be interesting to see though if he plays center field. Can I leave it at that?
For Team Columbia.
For Team Columbia. It might be Mike Trout's replacement out there at some point.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think I brought that full circle.
So, any other questions? Oh, I'm ready to go home now.
I was just gonna say this does make you a little bit more excited for what the Angels have done this offseason, getting a guy like Renfroe, getting a guy like Gio Urshela, who hopefully will be able to hit better than an Andrew Velasquez or Jared Walsh the way he hit last year. And same thing, Renfroe should be able to hit better than Adele and Moniak when they were at Angels. So that's exciting. Hopefully this helps the Angels this year, and you know, the Angels are on the right side of 500.
So, any other comments at all, since we just had a whole conversation about balls?
I'm good. I think
In a
non-perverted
sense, by the way.
I am shocked that this didn't get out into the public a little bit more. You know, I know, again, MLB is denying it, but
I mean, I don't really think that. I mean, call me the pessimist. I would say call me a conspiracy theorist. But then again, in the past couple of years, conspiracy theorists have actually been the ones who've been proven true. I don't really trust media anymore. And I'm saying that as somebody who's been in the media for a long time. There's a really big agenda. And when there's money involved, it takes an awful lot of courage for someone to speak up. The person who wrote this article had some courage, I'll tell you that much. And not a whole lot of outlets are going to talk about it. And also, I mean, how do I say this? There's also a really good chance that many people won't get it. Like, I didn't know what the story was about when you guys sent it over, and you explained it one time. I'm like, okay, got it. Get what it is. If I'm honest, most journalists out there that I've come across, how do I say this? Nate, can you help me out here, Negative Nate?
They don't care.
No, I think it's more than that. I think it's more than they don't care. There are some really dumb journalists out there.
Well, I mean, yeah,
And I'm
we've
talking
seen it with
stupid
we've
ones.
seen it with. I mean, we saw it all winter meetings long. How many times during the winter meetings do we see guys get things wrong? And I'm not going to name names, even though I know everyone
No,
wants
man,
to
name
name
them. Call them out.
a certain John Heyman, a Bob
Heyman.
Nightingale.
About
you know,
what? About
Oh.
Bob Nightingale's one of the worst. But why?
John
in case
Heyman
no one doesn't
literally
sue us. So no one sues us.
guaranteed Aaron Judge was going to the Giants. He was like, it's a done deal. Aaron Judge is a Giant. Everyone freaked out. Next day, Aaron Judge signed with
And then Heyman backs off, right? He's like, he slowly backs away.
Yeah, and Nightingale did the same thing multiple times. And you know, you can go back to when Trevor Bauer was a free agent. They even had Nightingale saying Trevor Bauer was going to be a Met. And, you know, now he's a nobody. So yeah, it's in the media right now. I think everyone is so concerned with being first, and I've said this, that everyone wants to be first because their name gets out there, that they aren't necessarily caring about being right. And when you see stories like this, if they're not first, then they're kind of like, you know what, whatever. I wasn't first. My name's not next to the article. My name isn't the one that people are talking about. So you know what? Who cares? I think that's
They
what's
don't care
wrong with
about
the
their
media.
credibility, dude.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
don't care about the credibility, but really, they're dumb. Not all, but you would be surprised how many dumb journalists I've met over the course of time, and they're getting dumber. And one of that is a simple. They don't really do a whole lot of journalism programs anymore in colleges, and a lot of these people do want going somewhere to get school, and they're somebody living in their parents' basement for the first 10 years of their career, don't know anything, just blog something, and bam, here we are. But on the flip side, that some of the most intelligent journalists I've met wouldn't be your traditional journalists. They're your podcasters. And I've been saying this for a long time. They're the people who will sit down and watch 162 games for a team and live and die with the team. And if you can get past the fact that they're going to be homers and get into what they're saying, you're going to find some of the most intelligent, articulate baseball analysts out there, and it's in your podcast. Or same for football. Really the same for football. You want good football information? Listen to a good football podcast, and you're going to get insight you won't get on ESPN or anywhere else. So I guess it's a plug for us because this is what we do.
Tap the bell on the bottom of the screen on YouTube. Please subscribe. We're halfway there. Don't forget.
I was waiting for someone to do it. It should have been me. Okay, it's time for us to go. Follow Nate at NateGreen34. Follow me at Ciapola, and follow Jared_Tims. They got the website going. I believe we're there, right?
Yeah,
We gotta go.
Yep. Couple
Articles
articles
are going
as
out.
well.
And it's a time for me to get back to writing. In the meantime, we're out of here. Have a great one.